Hello everyone. Today is the first presentation of group activity of paper number 106, History of 20th Century of Unit number 4, WB8 poems, which is assigned by Dr. Dilip Bharat sir. In this presentation, I, Mansi and Aarti are going to present about WB8 poem. So first I would like to call Mansi for a present about introduction and characteristic of 20th century.
Hello everyone, my name is Mansi. This is a point to ponder in this presentation. Introduction of the 20th century, characteristic of the 20th century, about W.B. Yeats, his writing style and the theme of poems, his major poems, about his poem, The Second Coming, and other poem is on being asked for war poems and the conclusion. Introduction of the 20th century. The 20th century was like a no period before it. Einstein, Darwin, Freud, and Marx were just some of the thinkers who profoundly changed the Western culture. The 20th century was dominated by significant events that define the modern era. Spanish flu pandemic, World War One, World War Two, nuclear weapons, nuclear power, and space exploration, nationalism, and decolonization. The Cold War and post-Cold War conflicts. The technological advantage. Uh, reshape the political and social structure of the globe. Uh, this is some characteristic of the age. So many characteristics of this age, but I will explain four major characteristics: imperialism, social unrest, anxiety and interrogation, art for art's sake. This is the first characteristic of the 20th century, imperialism. The contemporary society can be characterized as a demonstrating a new form of the Marxism nation of imperialism and as a media imperialism. Uh, Lenin is a writer one book about imperialism. According to Lenin, five characteristics of imperialism. First one is the role of economic concentration, the dominance of finance capital, the importance of capital exports, the special stratification of the world as a result of corporate dominance, the political uh, dimension of the spatial stratification of the world. The results demonstrate that Lenin's theory should be reloaded for contemporary media and communication studies. The second characteristic of 20th century was a social unrest. During this time, one movement comes is a civil rights movement. This movement is in United States has been a long, primarily a non-violent struggle to bring full civil rights and equal to all Americans. And second one is a World War. First World War is 1840, 1840 to 1890, and the Second World War is during 1939 to 1945. The third one is anxiety and interrogation. Karl Marx spent much of his life developing an economic analysis that explains the inherent uh, instability of cap- capitalism and provides a scientific basis of the development of the uh, so, uh, insist in their following out the theory of evolution. Fourth one is art for art's sake. Art for art's sake, a slogan translated from the French I art for I art, which was coined early in the early 19th century by the French philosopher Victor Cousin. The, the phrase expressed the brief belief held by many writers and artists, especially those associated with aestheticism, that art needs no justification, that it needs serve no political, didactic, or other hand. Here I put some poets and writers' names like John Galsworthy, George Bernard Shaw, Toni Morrison, Joseph Conrad, William Butler Yeats, Robert Frost, Samuel Beckett, George Orwell, Henry James, James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, and E.F. Foster. In other points, I will ask to Payal to discuss about other points.
About William Butler, yes, he was an Irish poet and dramatist. He was born in Dublin, in Ireland. He was the greatest poet of the 20th century. He is also known as a symbolist poet. He was one of the founder of Abbey Theatre, which is a very famous theatre in Dublin. In 1922, he became a Senate of the Irish Free State. His first poem placed in the newspaper was called the Wanderings of Oisin. He also won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the 1923. Here is a major poem of W.B. Yeats. A Prayer for My Daughter, The Second Coming, The Tower, Wanderings of Oisin, On Being Asked for a War poem, In Memory, Sailing to Byzantium, and Yeats started writing poems in 1887. He was inspired by B.B. Shelley and William Blake. In 1899, he fell in love with Maud Gonne. She is a very beautiful actress, and she is the subject of many of his love poems. For example, Low Second Troy is one of the most famous poem about Maud Gonne. Next, themes and writing style of W.B. Yeats. He was deep rooted in Irish culture with folklore. Its folklore. His early poetry was marked by dreamy romanticism with clarity, imagery, and musicality. Then his poetry was characterized by strong symbolism, obscurity, mysticism, and Irish mythology. Then his writing style is mainly based on the use of symbols like wandering states. This is a picture of giants, and spirals are frequent and important in his poems. W.B. Yeats as a modern poet. Yet not during two periods, ending of the Romanticism and beginning of the modern period. In his poems, we find impressive variety, metaphors, political notes, realism, religion, and mysticism. And all these things have made him a true modern poet. He is a prominent poet in modern times for his sense of moral boldness, of humanity, and history. This is one of the famous quotes from his poem. The world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our sense to grow sharper. This is a poem. It's very famous poem. The second coming. It is a poem of powerful imagery and symbolism, yet use the phrase the second birth instead of the second coming. Here is the second birth of Jesus Christ. This is a picture of you can see the head is like a man and body is like a lion shape. This is a symbol of Christian imagery. The poem was written in 1990 in the beginning of the Irish War of Independence. It was first published in the Dial in the 1920s. The poem uses Christian imagery regarding to the apocalypse and second coming to allegorically describe the atmosphere of First World War in Europe. The poem is also connected with the flu pandemic during the 1980 to 1990. When Yeats writes this poem, his pregnant wife, George Headless, caught the virus and was very close to the death. The highest death rates of the pandemic were among the pregnant women in some areas. They had up to 70% death rate. In the poem, Yeats suggests that out of the cause of that era, something is arising that is a very darker and more evil. Good people don't know what is worthy for them, and bad people are full of desire and intensity. It is divided into two stanzas, and it has no rhyming scheme means it is a form of writing is blank verse. So we can say that this poem is all about world after World War conditions, and second is a flu pandemic. This is a flu pandemic is also connected with India in Indian Corona pandemic time, where many people die and many other things happen. So this is one of the most famous poems, the second coming. For a further discussion, I would like to call Aarti.
Hello everyone. I am Aarti Sarvaiya. For the later part of presentation, I am dealing with that part. I am dealing with this poem on being asked for a war poem. This is a major poet of WBS. WBS, this poem is written by WBS. Title of the poem is On Being Asked for a War Poem. It is published on 6th February 1950. Genre of the poem is a political war poem. This poem is written during the beginning of the First World War. This poem is requested. This poem is written by WBS, and it is asked by or requested by Henry James and Edith Wharton. The style of writing of this poem is it is written in iambic pentameter sextet, which means a collection of 6 lines, and tone of this poem is ironical tone. Analysis of this poem. It is one of its shortest and well-known poems. Comprises just 6 lines and sets out why it chooses not to write a war poem for publication. The poem was first published in Edith Wharton's A Book of the Homeless, which is a collection of poems. In it is first published as a reason for keeping silent. When it was later reprinted, and the name like as the wild swans at the cool. And later its title was changed to On Being Asked for a War Poem. The poem says that it is not a place of poets to write about a politics, but that the poet instead should limit his interference in the world to placing his companions. This poem is written. WBS mostly likes to write poems on love and lyrics of romantic lyrics, and he also likes to write ballads on old people. And this particular poem is requested by Edith Wharton and James. Who was also a poet and very best known best friend of WBH. Rhyming scheme and rhyming words of this poem. Rhyming scheme was rhyming scheme of this poem is ABC, and rhyming words is like these: please, truth, youth, right, and night. This is the poem. Figures of the speech. Enjambment. Enjambment means the continuation of the sentence without a pause beyond the end of the line and couplet or stanza. In this line, where here is a comma, but after these 4 lines there is nothing like any punctuation mark. That is why we can say that here is the use of enjambment. Metonymy. Metonymy means one word is substitute for the another word which is associated with it. A poet's mouth, for example, a poet's mouth be silent for in truth. Here, poet's mouth is represents poet's poetry. In this, the poets are already says his every emotions and ideas through his poems. That's why here poet's mouth is represented the poet's poem. That is why we can say that here is the use of metonymy. In conclusion, to sum up, it can be easily said that the autobiography of the WBS is vividly reflected in his poem. We can say most of his poem is written on his own life and his own experiences of life. That is why we can say that, and we find almost all the cultures, traditions, as well as history of Irish people in his poem. In this, on being asked for a war poem, in this poem also there is a struggle. Irish people struggles for their ambitions and for their liberty against the British rule. That is, and as his career developed in the literary innovation, came with modernism in early decades of the 20th century. Its works retained its focus on traditional verse form, and rhyme schemes, but he became more political, more elusive, and more elliptical. This is the work cited, and then thank you.